You're watching Reality Check, This Week in Rewind. Welcome to Reality Check, This Week in Rewind. I'm your host, Quinny B, and once again, we're here for another week of not only an entertaining weekly recap of your favorite reality TV shows, but a quick check-in on the social media front. And so if you haven't heard by now, that means that you just have had your ears closed completely. Portia Williams and Dennis McKinley have officially called it quits. Now, who didn't see this coming? I'm not sure. The writing was on the wall. She stopped wearing her ring a while ago when she did that hair show, trade show with Kenya Moore. They stopped posting each other on social media. She's pretty much stripped him from all of her social media. And all of her posts have been about her and her precious baby PJ. But you know, we don't have to worry about Portia. She's a boss. She got this, and she definitely made the decision that was best for her. And speaking of Portia Williams, on a good note, she's officially back from maternity leave. So that means she's back on Dish Nation, and she's blessing us not only with her beauty, but her comedy. In other news, Tommy is back in jail. A couple of weeks ago, we discussed her release and how strict her probation was and that she was going to be on probation for 10 years. I had already said best of luck, and clearly she just couldn't make the cut. So hopefully Tommy will be out pretty soon. Your OG housewife, Miss Nene Leakes, is denying ever being suspended from Real Housewives of Atlanta, citing that you can't suspend her. Also, she's posted on social media these types of hypothetical questions, and I can't help but wonder where she's going with this. Is she eventually going to be giving relationship advice? I hope not. So let's hop right into the reality TV recap. This week, we're going to open with Growing Up Hip Hop Atlanta. This episode is pretty much just like last week's episode. It's focused on Bao and his inability to take accountability for what has happened between he and Kiyomi. It's crazy to me because it seems as though everyone cares about his image and what this could do to him more than he does. And I'm very perplexed by this. This episode opens 8 days after the arrest, and he's meeting with Deb Antony just to have a conversation about everything that's transpired. Because as we saw, when she saw the video footage of him in the elevator, she was very, very concerned. As I've already dubbed Deb the fairy godmother of the Growing Up Hip Hop Atlanta season, I think that her approach sometimes keeps her from being well received as well as understood. I think that she has the best intentions for Bao, and she really wanted to talk to him and help him navigate this situation, but she can be so aggressive and so direct in a way that could cause someone to just shut down. What I will say is that Bao is still not in a place where he's ready to take accountability or even just acknowledge what he's done. He's saying everything that happened in the car that we don't have footage of. And while I don't doubt that any of that could have even possibly happened, we have to deal with the footage and the audio of what we have right now in this moment. And it doesn't make him look good. He knew early on that he and Kiyomi were very combative and not good for one another, but he continued to invite her back into his life. Also in this episode, we see him, and this is far into the episode, we see him throw a party, and it's like, have you really learned your lesson? You're still popping bottles. You're still out here. You're getting drunk. You want to be around all these girls. Are you ever going to change? Are you ever going to grow up? One thing that I didn't expect to do this season was smile at any scene that had Andrea Kelly in it. I'm so surprised that I really enjoyed this scene where she and Tammy are having this private one-on-one lesson. Tammy walks in and Andrea is doing a very sexy dance to her song, Sex With You. And you have to give it to Andrea. The girl can dance. She knows her craft. Her body is crazy. It's like her vision is coming to life. And they get to have a woman-to-woman sit down. And they just get to talk about Tammy becoming comfortable in her skin and loving herself and just being ready to do all of these sexy moves that this video is going to require. But once again, here we go with talks of R. Kelly. I really just wish that we could leave him out of it because we've heard so much about him on other shows. This is supposed to be about Andrea's rebirth and her career and I guess her children, quote unquote, growing up hip hop, although we haven't even seen them on the show as of yet. Every other moment we're hearing about Robert. I really do hope that they are able to cut the footage in a way that she transitions out of that. It's pretty early on in the season, and I would really like to stop hearing about Robert Kelly now. During this scene, Tammy also mentions that she hid her ability to sing because she didn't want to come off as an opportunist with Waka. And while I understand, I keep thinking that was so long ago. You just celebrated 5 years. And girl, if you can blow, don't stifle yourself. Show your talents. If styling isn't your passion, why would you allow your husband to stifle that? And not saying that Waka did it knowingly, because clearly he didn't know that she could sing. And as she said, the second he found out that she could, he got right behind her, totally and completely ready to support her career. And so I do not only hope that her career goes the distance, but so does their marriage. Can we talk about this scene where Brandon and Deb are chatting in her living room and he divulges that he's in firefighter school? Is anyone believing this? Because I'm not. I've seen firefighters. I've also seen like police officers and police officer training. And I've seen the weight that people lose and the durability and what it requires. And I'm really not sold that Brandon is actually in firefighter school. I feel like he's lying to make it seem like he's making progress to Deb because he wants to weasel his way back into her life. They briefly talk about the Bao situation, but I have more important questions. Like, Deb, where's your man from last season, girl? We miss him. In the next scene, Bao's attorney makes a house call to let him know that his trial has been indefinitely postponed, which is not good news. So that might explain why we haven't heard any updates on it as of yet. Just a quick Google search, I think, and I'll find my answers. I'll report back next week. Growing Up Hip Hop is trying to introduce yet another character that we, one, know nothing about, and two, probably have no interest in seeing. This young lady by the name of Remarkable, who is Eazy-E's daughter, who has grown up here in Atlanta, is now being introduced to the show through BT, a Streets 94.5 radio personality. She calls herself, I believe, the Queen of the South, yet no one's heard of her. I understand you gotta fake it till you make it, but I think that's a little lofty. In this segment, Remarkable is completely transparent about her upbringing, being poor, as well as being ostracized by her friends and classmates because of her dad's diagnosis. People didn't understand that you could hug her, you could touch her, you can't eat behind her, or you can't eat off of the fork that she's eating off of and not catch HIV or AIDS, which also shows the ignorance and the lack of understanding about what the disease was for that time. I would say that as far as I can tell, she's turned out pretty okay. Over at Ayana's, she and her girlfriend have gotten their own apartment, and somehow Ayana has just become this housewife. She cooks, she cleans, she waits on Amy hand and foot. However, she's not working. When she's asked about what happened to her clothing line, she says that she has to revamp and she's just not sure what direction to head in. I want to know, what is she revamping? Last season, we saw her doing these very cute Instagram model dresses that were with cutouts and things off the shoulder, risque, slinky, form-fitting. And so I'm just wondering what this revamp is going to be. What I would actually want to see is her make clothes not only for a real woman, but a real woman that has a larger bust, because I would think that that's something that she can relate to. Even though she got a breast reduction, her bust still isn't small. And so that's a niche market right there that she could tap into and completely make a lot of money. In the interim, she divulges that she's starting a YouTube channel and she's talking about beauty, makeup tips, and all of those great things. Now, her dad and Deb don't seem too enthused. They quickly tell her that she needs to focus on one thing and master one thing, which makes me think that she has a lot of hobbies and all she does is bounce around from hobby to hobby until she gets tired of them. But see, Deb comes over and she has an ulterior motive. She wants Ayana and Brandon to make up. While I cannot remember exactly what they fell out over last season, I hate it when the elders or the adults butt into things that have nothing to do with them. You have to allow these quote unquote kids to work through things in their own time. Ayana quickly shuts it down and Deb exits equally as fast. One of the funnier scenes during this episode is when Tammy and Deb are in the car and they're talking about Deb's relationship with Brandon, how it came about, and the risk that she put the family in. I have to agree with Tammy. Deb put them just in a majorly compromising position when she just invited Brandon into her home. And I understand that she was grieving because her son had just committed suicide. But I wouldn't think that you'd want to fill that void with a stranger. I would think that maybe you want to pull your family closer, maybe even get a tad bit clingy on to Waka, but just to welcome a stranger in where you've never met his family. She admits this during this scene, that she's never met his family, but she's spoken briefly on the phone with his parents. What I get out of that is that you know nothing about him, and this guy has just been able to kind of slither his way into your life. What enrichment has he really done? This episode closes with Bao going to this all-black party that's hosted by BT. He's gotten another DJing gig, and so of course he needs to bring the crowd out. Ayana shows up, Bao is there, and some young lady with red hair who I thought was remarkable, but upon further inspection I don't think is, but she claims to be one of Kiyomi's friends. But she can't wait to hang on Bao, get in his ear, and I'm one of Kiyomi's friends, and she really is a sweetheart, and she's this, that, and the third. And for once, I'll side with Bao on this one thing. I completely understand him not wanting to hear her name. They are literally in the middle of court proceedings. Girl, get off of me. If you're her friend, why aren't you at home with her? Who comes out to the club and works their way into my section so that they can tell me about my ex that I have a pending case against? Girl, bye. The closing scene is someone who's, pigeon-toed, where they walk like this. Someone is walking up into the club with, I think, these white boots on and a black outfit, a very hot outfit. Maybe this was shot in the wintertime, but they're walking into the club. Comment section and speculation is that it's Angela Simmons. The way that they cut the film is trying to allude that it's Kiyomi, but I know for a fact it's not her. Hopefully this reveal is not underwhelming. On to Little Women Atlanta. I do have one question because this is my first season watching the show. What was the original purpose of Little Women Atlanta? Were all these women pursuing music careers? This episode, like the last few episodes, kind of revolves around these ladies trying to get on this tour with GC, trying to make tracks, trying to establish their brand. Of course, we get a quick recap of the wedding, how beautiful it was, but Minnie, of course, is here to talk business and what she's trying to do for her artists. Because of the wedding and because the love is in the air, the twins talk about possibly making individual love songs. Juicy meets with an artist named Amaretta. While I love Juicy's business acumen, her go-get-em attitude, and how she loves to hype her artist up, Amaretta just ain't it. Baby girl cannot sing, and Juicy is sitting over there in the studio talking about, yes, I know I can get you to collab with Bree, one of the cheeks. I'm like, collab on what? Because this girl can't sing. She ain't got it. Let it go. You should have just left. Nevertheless, this is a collab that she still wants to present to Bree. In the next scene, Abira is working on her mixtape as Lil Vicious, Lil V, and she really is by far, if we're talking about the women, she really is the only artist with major talent that really has the potential to go somewhere. And I really like this Bumpman pair because he's been in the game for a while, and so he really can help her. And we see that in this scene. He comes in with ideas, direction. He helps her to become more comfortable and guide her through this studio session. And they really do make a great team. Andrea has a moment of weakness and decides to FaceTime Chris. Now, like I said, because I have not seen previous seasons, I wasn't really aware of this tumultuous history. All I kind of had was a little bit of hearsay. But seeing those flashbacks makes me wonder, how did they even get to having 3 kids together? And why is she even trying to repair this with him? She keeps talking about all of this that she's invested, but I'm like, girl, it's time to cut your losses. Are you seeing any return on your investment? Because it seems as though he's doing the same thing, which is leaving whenever he gets ready or whenever it benefits him. Juicy and Bree meet up at a juice bar to discuss this collab with Amaretta. And of course, Bree has to check with Emily. Juicy had already said that was going to happen, but I feel like your solo career and your Cheeks career are 2 different things. And so, yes, you might want to mention to Emily, because you guys agreed to be transparent, that yes, I'm going to do another track with another artist, but I don't need your approval, and I'm really not asking for your feedback. Of course, Emily thinks that it's stupid. She feels like it's not a good move for her. And so she ends up talking Brie out of it. But really, that's on Brie. If Brie isn't strong enough to stand on her own 2 feet, really stop wasting Juicy's time with trying to help you get this solo career off the ground. Either you're going to do it or you're not. Minnie is on the move and trying to win the title of the best manager of the year. She's working on getting the Tiny Twins track played at a club, and then she's also working on Abira's mixtape release party, as well as possibly getting her tracks played somewhere in the future. So she meets up with GC and kind of asks, what's the process? How do I get the Twins music played in a club? And he really does do a good job of filling her in and letting her know that it's really not that easy. Yes, we make it look easy. It may sound easy, but it is all about connections. Fortunately, GC is able to come through for her. And so her surprise that she promised the Twins is actually going to come to fruition. Abira, Minnie, and the Twins meet out at a club for this surprise that they don't know is happening. So the surprise is that the Twins track is going to be played. And in a previous scene, they had done a flashback to what the song was while they were rapping it at the wedding. And I'm not impressed. However, the decision was to get the track played. And I actually think the track that they played in the club was Project X. It did not sound like the song that they rapped in the flashback, but that could have just been acoustics, audio. I don't know, but it sounded like 2 completely different songs to me. Anyway, Minnie is able to get Project X played in the club, which is great. The Twins are excited. The club is vibing. People are supporting, clapping, dancing, trying to learn the lyrics. Unfortunately for Abira, one of her songs is not a follow-up. And I will say that when they showed the preview last week of this scene in particular, I was so ready to side with Abira. But upon further inspection and actually seeing the scene in its entirety, I actually think that Minnie made the right decision as a manager. Yes, I want to get everybody's songs played in the club, but Abira / Lil Vicious makes very aggressive, possibly break out and fight music. I don't really think that was the venue for that. I understand what Minnie was trying to accomplish with the Twins in that moment. It's also not like she didn't have things in the works for Abira, but Abira just won't allow Minnie to manage her and surprise her. And because of Abira's temper tantrum, Minnie has to come right out and tell her what her plans were when they meet one-on-one. And while Abira pretends not to be impressed, when we actually get to the mixtape release party and you see the mixtape, the cover art for the mixtape, the shirts, and the turnout that she has, her attitude quickly transforms. It's all about Abira, and that's what she wants. The Twins are supposed to show up to Abira's mixtape release party because clearly they have the same manager. They're also friends, so they want to support one another. But Andrea allows Chris to pop up at her house and completely derail her night. He shows up, luggage in hand. I'm sorry, I want to make it right. My speculation is that he possibly lost this job on the road, and so he has to come back with his tail tucked between his legs. Andrea calls in sick, and Amanda and her twin senses aren't buying it. She says that she'll speak to her sister about it later, but I'm just tired of seeing Chris already. I feel like he's manipulative, and he's just manipulating Andrea's feelings and her desire to have her family and to make it work so that it benefits from him. I have no doubt that he'll just up and leave again whenever he gets the chance to. On to Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. We open with Pooh having a photo shoot for some product, and we later find out that it's for a lip plumper, ironically, a eyeshadow sticker. So I guess for women or young girls that want to play in makeup or just don't have time to do their eyeshadow, it's an adhesive that goes over your eyelid, as well as eyelashes. She invites Mimi to chat because, of course, Mimi is the only person that's filming with her at this point, and she has to get her camera time from somewhere. And she and Mimi talk about what's going on between Mimi, Stevie, and Ty. And what's really happening is that Stevie is kind of antagonizing Ty on social media every time she posts a photo of her and Eva. Ty says that she's tired because Stevie is nothing but an Instagram daddy, and he doesn't pay child support. He doesn't spend time with Eva like he's supposed to, and essentially asking Mimi why is she protecting him. We cut to Jock, and Jock is having interviews at what appears to be some sort of bar. Now, this is probably one of the only scenes that to me felt obviously staged. These girls are coming in with purple lipstick, fishnets looking like they're ready to dance at a rave, just very inappropriate. And then furthermore, they are just flirting with him to the max, and it's disgusting. Jock has 8 kids. I don't know what any woman wants with a man with 8 kids, but these girls are going for it. You hear me? It just doesn't put Jock in the best light when we're talking about being transparent, respecting Kendra, and trying to do things on the up and up. Now, I understand probably not wanting to do this at the shop or even let Sharonda know that you're doing this, but if I was Kendra watching this footage back, I might be like a little irritated, like just a tinge. When the interviews are over, Scrap and Kirk come to visit because, like I said, it's at a bar. And they're talking about what happened with Rashida and Jasmine's meetup, which Kirk shares. Rashida didn't really share a lot of information. And the guys are right. If Rashida has not shared anything, he does need to be concerned. Kirk also talks about this seminar, this relationship class, this master class that he and Rashida are having. And I don't understand who's going to get relationship advice from them. Business advice? Absolutely. They've done so well for themselves. Relationship advice? It's a no for me. Anyway, the seminar is mentioned because Kirk wants to invite the fellas because maybe they can learn something. Another thing that's shared in this segment is that Jock has not yet shared with the mothers of his children that he's ready to propose to Kendra. He really does, I guess, need to get their approval. And so the guys kind of have a little friendly banter around that as well. And it's almost as if Jock knows that that is the most important thing on his list of things to do. So up next, he invites Alex and Cena, which are 2 out of maybe 4 mothers, to actually discuss his desire to propose to Kendra. Apparently, these are the 2 that he's closest with, Cena being his ex-wife. What we find out is that the ladies actually like Kendra. They're kind of encouraging him to do it, but they're also very humored. Jock mentions, well, they don't have to worry about him having any more kids, and they're just as confused as Kendra. You want more kids? And what he states is that not necessarily that he wants more kids, but he wants the opportunity or the possibility of it, which just no. The ladies give him their seal of approval, and they also mention that maybe they can even talk Kendra into being open to make more babies with Jock. Let's hope not. Back at Mimi's, Ty and Stevie are engaged in yet another social media war. Ty is very clear about she doesn't know how much longer she can deal with this. And I personally think that they are both at fault here. If Ty would just block him or just stop engaging with him, then this issue would be solved. I don't know if it's because she doesn't want Eva to have a relationship with Stevie, or if she's just that pissed off at Stevie's possibly terrible parenting that she just can't see past it. But I think that Ty is overstepping her boundaries and really just needs to back up a little bit. Either way, this antagonizing and this back and forth is really not cool and is stressing Mimi out. We're getting aggressive, ready to fight. I can't even do the voice because it'll make my throat hurt, but this very aggressive, borderline spitting when speaking Mimi. On to Carly. Carly has moved back into her old home because remember, she and Arkansas Mo bought a home together and they had moved in maybe about 3 or 4 episodes ago, right before she went to Trinidad. But now, after this counseling session with Dr. Jeff, these amazing acting skills, or maybe real life trauma, she's ready to move back into her old home. They need space. What I still cannot figure out is that if Arkansas Mo is really this bad of a person, why does Carly want to make it work with him? Why does she want this for herself? It makes no sense to me. Nevertheless, Carly's spirits are down, and so she's in need of some girl time. She stops by Pressed to talk to Rashida and to fill her in on the Dr. Jeff appointment. This entire episode, her mood was so somber. At the studio, Akbar V is working on yet another track, and she's working on it with Hiram. She's working on it with Pooh's husband. Of course, they need to make that introduction because no one's filming with Pooh. Hiram introduces these 2 ladies and they immediately get to talking and connecting the dots. Akbar is like, oh, you're Pooh. Heard about you from Sierra. And so they start talking about Sierra and BK, the trip to Trinidad, and pretty much just everything that's transpired. And Pooh gets to tell her version of events, which is a little splotchy. There are a few holes in there. And I'm hoping that Akbar just isn't buying into it, but Akbar does. And somehow we end up talking about Shekinah, and Shekinah used to mess with one of her baby daddies. while she was messing with him, she kind of was trying to get with him. But I'm like, if it's one of your baby daddies and it's the past, why haven't you moved on? But I get it. We need a storyline, camera time, filming. And so this whole let's be messy and go to this love and relationships seminar that although Kirk and Rashida are the ones that are being interviewed, Shekinah is the host. So the idea is let's go to this and let's just make a mess of it. Although Pooh doesn't go, Akbar is always down for the mess, ready for the drama. And so she shows up ready to make a fool of herself and Shekinah. But let's be clear, the only person that she made a fool of was herself. One person missing from this love and relationship seminar was Sierra. You know, they are still fueling this whole Sierra and Scrap dating thing. And so Scrap wanted to invite Sierra to the relationship seminar as friends and to see if there was something that they could learn or if they could even use this as an opportunity to spark conversation. However, she's just disappeared off the face of the planet. Speaking of Shekinah, Carly comes over to Shekinah's shop to get her hair done, and Shekinah just can't wait to share this information that Sharonda has shared about Jock allegedly flirting with the employees or future employees. And that's why she can't maintain order within her shop. I'm very disappointed in Shekinah because she's betraying this brotherhood type, this brother-sister relationship that she has with Jock. And prior to this, Shekinah had really stayed out of the mess. So to carry this little bit of a bone, which I personally don't even think is a bone, I don't even think Jock is flirting with these girls, but to carry it back to messy Carly, who we know is going to make sure that it gets to the appropriate avenues, is just unnecessary. Shekinah says in her confessional, if a little bit of gossip is what will cheer Carly up, then that's what she's going to do. Carly isn't cheered up at all. It's just an opportunity to talk about Jock and how he used to cheat on her and how he used to run around on her. And for somebody with her own man and her own set of problems, she's way too invested in talking about Jock. On to the good guy. He's in the studio recording something that's never going to see the light of day when Mimi aggressively walks in to check him. Okay? She had one of those hats that like what Jock has on, the big fedora, so she can, get that little action popping. And ooh-wee, is she talking aggressively and in his face? And I think she really does end up like slapping his hand or something really hard. Nothing is really solved. The one thing that's clear here is that Stevie is unbothered. He's happy. He's laughing. He's actually egging Mimi on, and it doesn't help the situation at all. Stevie's not going to stop doing what he's doing. I suggest Ty block him on all social media platforms and continue to be happy with her relationship and allow Mimi and Stevie to continue to repair this relationship for Eva's sake. Eva's always going to be here. They're always going to have to communicate, and Ty needs to grow up. On to Carly's sexology party. She's finally graduated from her course. So now, if you didn't know what all of this was about, Carly is actually selling sex toys. And you can probably check her Instagram for the website. Carly's having her sexology graduation party, which looks like it's held at a club. So it's penises, penis pops, just everything sex related there. Anything that you can think of. It's like a cheap bachelorette party before a graduation. So Carly's there still being somber, and all the ladies get together. They're sharing their stories, things that we've already heard throughout this episode. Carly and Arkansas Mo's counseling session with Dr. Jeff, Mimi, Stevie, and Ty drama. And then Carly also invites, I think she invited Sierra. She definitely invites one of the two baby mamas so that she can carry this imaginary bone that Shekinah has passed to her so that somehow it can get back to Kendra. So even when Carly has so much on her plate and other things that she needs to be focused on, she always finds time to carry a bone, especially when it's Jock related. This episode closes with this love and relationship seminar that Kirk and Rashida are doing, that Shekinah is hosting, and Akbar walks in late, immediately sits down, and it's ironic that they're opening up the floor for questions. So I got a question. What you supposed to do when you dating a dude and his ex just all in his face, just won't leave him alone? You know what I'm saying? Just kept going. And so Shekinah's looking like, because it's clear that they know of each other and that they have history and that they've experienced each other. But girl, this was how long ago? If this is Shekinah's ex and this is your baby daddy, Why are you coming in here trying to start something? And so she kind of doesn't really move, like she doesn't stand up to fight, but Akbar stands up to fight and is quickly escorted out of the building. The only person that's embarrassed or whose reputation is scathed in this is Akbar B's. Now on to Basketball Wives. It's pretty clear early on that this episode is going to revolve around this Jen conflict. I want Jen to go ahead and just exit the show, because for somebody that doesn't care and is just over these ladies, why did you come back? Why do you keep coming back to work with women that you don't like? It makes no sense to me. The checks cannot be that big. The show opens with everyone discussing what happened at the love party, what Jen did, as well as the conversations that were had with Evelyn about this whole Kristen, Cece, and Byron thing. Jackie, Kristen, and Jen are at the nail salon, and Jen arrives late. However, when confronted with her part in the drama, she's unapologetic and quickly turns into the victim. She says that her mother passing away 3 years ago changed her life, and so she doesn't care about any of these ladies. And while I empathize with the loss of your mother, the drama that you're inciting now and the drama that you incited last season are completely unrelated. So, your point? Tammy and OG are working out and catching up, and they're talking about OG's ready to retire from women's football because she's ready to get married and have babies. I'm really curious as to whether or not this is the same guy from last season, or have we just moved forward, because it really didn't seem like he wanted to marry her. They also talk about what happened at the party, because we know Tammy did a drive-by hello. So she missed all of the drama, and I'm so happy that she did. It's so good to see Tammy in this positive space where she just doesn't have to interact with people that she doesn't want to. OG fills her in. Tammy's happy she left. And Tammy also FaceTimes Malaysia. Malaysia fills her in on the fact that she's actually hosting a dinner with Cece, London, who's Byron's daughter, and Kristen. What I can't figure out is why Byron isn't invited. If Kristen already knows that Byron is actually the one that has the issue with her, then why does she continue to take this out on Cece? Shawnee, Jackie, and Evelyn meet up to have drinks poolside, and Jackie shares with them that she's having a crystals event. So these ladies are all into energies, auras, getting rid of negative energy, and just bringing in positivity. So Jackie thinks that this event is a great opportunity for the ladies to clear the air as well as clear their auras. Evelyn, Shawnee, they say that they'll come, but they're not really sold on it. But what they do know is that if they do come, they still don't really want to interact with Miss Jennifer. Back at Malaysia's, she's busy prepping for quote unquote dinner that we never see. We see drinks and cocktails being had. No one eats. But she's prepping for dinner, which is really just supposed to be a sit down. She's supposed to be the mediator because she's all about family. She's ready for her family to be together. Kristen and London arrive first, and then Cece arrives. It kind of feels like they gang up on Cece a little bit, but I also think it's because Cece is so timid. She never really gives any real pushback. She's not a person that's quick with the comebacks, with the shade. That's just really not who she is. And I think that they get to take advantage of that. I still don't even know why London is there, because she can't even really articulate what her issues are with Cece. It starts off very rocky, screaming. Well, I won't quite say screaming. I'll say elevated voices. Cece's ready to leave. They say that she has this fight or flight approach, but in the end, the ladies get to hug it out. I really don't see a lot of progress that was made, but it is a step in the right direction. Jackie has invited Jen to a potting class so that she can also invite her to her crystals event, and Jen shows up with a friend. VH1 quickly shoots back to footage of her showing up to Shawnee's love event with a friend, and so it shows that Jen clearly needs some type of moral support and more than likely will not be showing up to these events alone. In the next scenes, as they relate to Kristen and her husband and Cece and Byron, we get to see the divide in the family yet again. And what we see is them wanting to make Cece the scapegoat. No, she doesn't push back on Byron, but she also knows that that's not her place. If Byron has an issue with something that Kristen said, then that's really between the two of them. And Thomas and Cece as spouses, I would think, need to step out. But what we do see is that these two men are sticking by their wives and sticking to their guns. And I really don't know if they're going to be able to resolve this anytime soon. As we know, every season, Evelyn needs a protege. And so I'm guessing that Shawnee's too busy because her son has had heart surgery. So she just has a whole nother list of priorities. She's not friends with Tammy. She's not friends with Jen. So she has to introduce Phoebe, who's one of her friends from New York. Phoebe comes off as a little hard, and I think it's her tone. It's very rough. But I think she'll be good TV. Over at Tammy's, she is treating Reggie to a manicure. And what I liked about it is the atmosphere seemed very masculine. So he seemed very comfortable. While he's getting this manicure, they are catching up on their date night with the Christies, talking about Jackie Christie's spidey senses and her ability to feel a wedding, because she was pushing this marriage thing like no other when they had that double date. She also talks about how disappointed or how upset her girls are with them for eloping and how can they make things right. We saw that at the close of Tammy Ever After, and so it's kind of carried into this episode as well. Very interested to see how Mona and VH1 are going to balance the two shows, because if you continue this overlap, it could really affect Tammy's viewership. It's clear that Jazz and Lyric being upset with both Tammy and Reggie is severely impacting Tammy. She misses her kids. They're not there. They're not calling. They're not coming to visit. So I'm guessing that this is the first time in weeks that they've seen them, and the girls agree to come over so that they can hash things out. They're actually able to squash things relatively quickly, but I think it's just because the girls' anger and shock needed to subside. On to the juice. It's right before the Crystals party and the ladies decide to go out for drinks. By ladies, I mean Evelyn, Phoebe, Shawnee, and Kristen. While they're out having drinks, Phoebe divulges that she's never had wine. I don't think she's much of a drinker, period, because she didn't really know what she wanted to drink. But the juice is that Jennifer calls Kristen while she's out with the ladies, and Kristen either has her on speaker or Jen's voice is just that strong because she was loud as hell. "Are you going to this thing?" she asks. And the ladies are amused. They really do struggle to be quiet because they want to hear what she's saying. All this call really did was put Shawnee and Evelyn's antennas up and let them know that they can't really relax and engage in this Crystals experience like they probably would want to, simply because they don't trust Jennifer. On to the event. They enter this beautiful space. Everything is set up. The room flows. It's light. I just felt at ease just looking at it. What I do know is that once these ladies are done, they're going to have to cleanse not only the room that the ladies were in, because that was a back room, they're going to have to cleanse the whole location. The ladies arrive and they're escorted to the back. Immediately, they kind of hop into this meditation. It's supposed to relax them, guide them, help them unwind, but Shawnee can't do it. The camera cuts to her. Shawnee won't close her eyes. Kristen opens her eyes. Evelyn's looking over at Shawnee. This is already just a recipe for disaster. Jen arrives late. They say that the energy in the room just kind of shifted. Now, what I felt when Jen came in was just her being timid and not feeling necessarily welcome. And I think that we can understand why she may not have felt welcome. Jackie says, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, which in Jen's confessional, she goes, I may be tall, but I'm damn sure not an elephant, which leads me to believe you've never heard that expression. Idiot. They hop right into it. They talk about their issues with Jen, and Jen is defensive. And she talks about her mother and her mother's passing and how that's impacted her. Evelyn just kind of straight up calls BS and leaves the room. However, Shawnee stands there and watches Jen kind of deteriorate before her eyes, and she can't help but console her. Jackie goes, well, that's sisterhood there, and you ladies need to see this. You need to see that this is what sisterhood looks like. But what I need Jackie to understand is that this consoling moment doesn't mean that all is well. Shawnee had a moment where she could empathize with her, but that doesn't mean that Shawnee's ever going to want to be in a room with her again, ever going to want to communicate with her, or anything to that effect. And so I just can't wait to see where this goes after this kumbaya moment. And last but not least, On to T.I. and Tiny Friends and Family Hustle. One thing to note this week is that there was no Real Housewives of Potomac due to the BET Awards, and it appears that there was no Tammy Ever After. I usually DVR it. I came back to check. There was nothing to watch, so there's nothing to report on. We open with Monica arriving in LA. Of course, she's still recovering from her bunion surgery, so you see her getting out the car. She's a little wobbly, but she's out in LA to perform for the Dear Mama event, which was a beautiful event, and Monica that girl can blow. I really enjoyed seeing that. It was great seeing her mom. As Monica said, her mom is her peace, and you feel that in that room. Her mom just brings a sense of calm to her. So maybe her mom needs to go everywhere with her. Back in Atlanta, Tiny hits up 107.5, which is a radio station here for kind of like the older generation. It's like, oldies and R&B. And Ryan Cameron is now on 107.5. He used to have the morning slot on V103, but Frank Ski has taken over that slot. Ryan called himself retiring, quickly came out of retirement. He's a major name here in Atlanta, and not sure if other people have heard of him. Anyway, Tiny comes down to 107.5 to play the track that she's written under her alias, Ryder. And Ryan likes it. I just still haven't heard it on the radio. Ryan also jumps into questions about when are you going on tour? When are you releasing other tracks? I think that these are normal questions that you ask when an artist comes up to debut a single. And Tiny has no real answers, which leads me to believe that this whole Ryder thing is a fluke. It's not going to go anywhere, which is very unfortunate, because if you really want to make your fans happy and you really want to get out there and you've just been talking about this, then do something with it. All of the ladies meet up at a wine and cheese midday event. And at this event, the ladies are just kind of playing catch up on what's going on in their lives. So Monica is concerned because she's doing a video release party. She's also preparing to go on tour. Tiny divulged that she's not going to be able to make it to the single release party, but of course, she's always going to show support. Toya shares that she actually booked a counseling session for Reginae because she's just concerned about her daughter's spirit, her energy, and just the person that she's turning into. Social media is really impacting this baby. And it's so sad, and it's just so crazy to see how much social media runs people's lives. T.I. and Messiah go apartment hunting, which leads me to ask, how old is Messiah? He's like 18, 19. But I understand wanting to be alone. Being alone or moving out on your own allows you to really grow into who you want to be and to learn things about yourself. There are just certain things you're not going to learn being under your parents' roof because so many rules come with that. They do have a really good conversation about the music that Messiah wants to produce, because he doesn't want to be on the rapping side. He wants to be a producer, and talk about how to approach that, because he seems to be kind of in a stagnant place. So T.I. agrees to kind of get him hooked up with a legendary producer, so that he can get some feedback. It's great to know people in high places, especially when they're your daddy. This episode, LaToya's not having the best time. Her mother-in-law, who VH1 flashes back to walking, talking, and just being active, is unfortunately battling cancer. The cancer has spread. It started out as breast cancer. She was a survivor, and it's almost as though it's come back with a vengeance. And so now it's just more about accommodating her in her final days. And Tommy is a mama's boy, so he immediately wants to fly out to Texas to be at her bedside and spend time with her. And LaToya is pretty torn because although she has all of these business things happening, your husband and your family and real life comes first. And so should she stay back and allow him to have that one-on-one time and allow him to experience those things alone? Or should she fly out there and be by his bedside or by his mother's bedside with him as the dutiful wife I think that she wants to be? She ultimately decides to fly out, which means that she misses Monica's video release party. But of course, Monica's going to understand. Reginae goes for her first counseling visit, and you can see that her guard is up a little bit, but the counselor is able to talk her through it and kind of get her to become more comfortable. I almost don't want this to be on camera. I think that they actually probably would have made it a lot further had the cameras not been there. I think that Reginae deserves to have a safe space, and she's not going to get that if everything is on camera. Now, she does share that her relationship with her dad isn't as strong as she would like for it to be. And so that possibly impacts her relationships and the way that she views herself. Overall, I think it was a great visit, a great first start. Toya also goes to counseling, and we learn that her relationships with men are influenced and impacted by her relationship with her father. It's literally like mother, like daughter, and they're mirroring each other in this aspect. But I hope that both of the ladies are able to navigate these things and improve their not only their social, but intimate relationships. Dominique and Reginae decide to start a YouTube channel, and they pretty much do like a 21 questions type thing for best friends. And it's a really cute, lighthearted moment. And it's just good to see Reginae act her age and not be so defensive. LaToya and Toya also go rock climbing, which I think is good for LaToya to get out and kind of bounce her ideas off of someone else as far as being there for Tommy. Ultimately, she decides to go to Houston. T.I. is able to follow through on his promise, and he gets Ninth Wonder, who is a very well-known producer, to talk to Messiah about his career, the path that he should take, his approach, the steps, and also listen to some of his tracks. And thankfully, he gets his seal of approval, and it really does make Messiah's day. So I'm very excited to see what he produces. During some one-on-one time, Toya fills Red in on her counseling session, and it seems as though she gave herself a lot of the burden as to why they weren't married. And I appreciate Red kind of slowing her down and stopping that and kind of being like, I appreciate you taking the effort to go to counseling. I appreciate you wanting to dig into these things about yourself, but don't feel pressure to get married because of me. I'm going to be here. I'm going to love you no matter what. And I think that that's really what she needed to hear. The show closes with Monica's video release party at Reverie, a popular virtual reality bar here in Atlanta. In short, the video is a success. The viewing is a success, and I'm happy that Monica's happy, and I'm excited to see what she does as an independent artist. And that wraps up this week's recap. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like this episode, make sure to hit like, and don't only hit like, hit subscribe. And while you're at it, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook so that you're always a part of the conversation. You never want to miss what we're discussing. Can't wait to see you next week. Bye-bye. This video has been Queenie B approved. Thanks for watching. But don't stop there. Let's head on over to Instagram and Twitter and keep the conversation going. I'll meet you there. Bye-bye.